Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of AWS Builds Tech Skills. Can you believe it's already Friday and also February, and time goes by so quickly these days? Well, I'm curious to know today about everyone's New Year's resolution. My New Year's resolution was to keep learning and keep studying for AWS and container related certifications. So far, I haven't broken my own promise, but it's been really busy. So curious to know where everyone is joining us from and how your New Year's resolution is going. Type in the chat because we're here to interact and we actually see what's going on in the chat as well, and we reply back as well. So how's your New Year's resolution going, May?
My new resolution, well, I can't believe it is February. So it's going okay. But so far, I haven't knocked out the certification like you do, Mai. But I want to hear more about your New Year resolutions and how did you do your certifications. So first of all, which container certification did you do, Mai?
Yeah, well, I did the Certified Kubernetes Administrator, so CKA for short. And it was a follow-up from CKAD, which is a Certified Kubernetes
Oh,
Application
wow.
Developer. So that's the CKA is more focused on the systems administrator side of things. I guess we call them DevOps engineers or cloud platform engineers these days. Yeah, it was a really tough one. For those of you that's on my LinkedIn, you've probably seen that I failed twice to get and finally passed on the third try. Yeah, but there's definitely some tips and tricks that I could
It's,
impart to the
yeah,
crowd.
that would
Yeah.
be that would be awesome because the containers, it has been grown popularly lately. Well, a couple of years now, and a lot of people are just trying to get into like the real concept of the containers and get hands on. So, what's your tips on who is taking into container certification, Mai?
Yeah, for this particular well, it applies to CKA and CKAD. Get your hands dirty. Just practice a lot. So it's basically, I think it's muscle memory. So it's
Yeah,
just keep typing in those commands, fail fast, fail early, and the more you fail, the more you learn. And don't be afraid of getting into the command line and playing with clusters. Because if
yeah.
you don't try, you just don't know where you're not good at, and then you continuously improve, right? So it's kind of like your own CI/CD process. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about yourself, May? What's your certification tips in general?
Okay. I think I have to agree with you. Doing hands-on. I know it takes a bit of a time to just actually get in and do the hands-on, but it's really stick with yourself, like stick with your memory, how to do things, and really understand the core concept, and you build on top of it. So I have to agree with you that getting hands-on. The other My other tips, which I find it's pretty useful, is to look at the concept from a different angles, so not just from the one particular angles. Like you can look at different use cases when you're trying to understand one concept. So for example, this week we're going to talk about event-driven architecture, and we can look at it from not just trying to understand what really is the event-driven architecture. We can also look at it from like, what are the use cases? How does people resolve using this architecture, and just trying to make it a little bit more interesting. It's really useful in the actual like workplace where you can apply this knowledge to the workplace. So that would be my tip.
Fantastic. Thanks, May.
Cool. So yes, this week we are going to talk about event-driven architecture. And if you don't know what is this architecture or the pattern is, you're in the right place. Event-driven architecture has grown popularity because it helped to address some of the challenges in the modern architecture design. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. But like I said, I want to hear, since you're a solutions architect, I want to hear what's your experience with event-driven architectures. Like, do you see any use cases with your customer that you can share with us today?
Yeah, sure. My customers are looking for event-driven architectures to integrate with third-party providers or SaaS providers like
Mhm.
software as a service, equal SaaS, like Salesforce, and being able to use that CRM data and using that data to personalize the customer experience on their web page. And one AWS service that would be useful in this regard is Amazon AppFlow, because it's an integration service that allows you to securely transfer data between SaaS providers like Salesforce, SAP, Zendesk, Slack, and ServiceNow.
Mm.
And it integrates with AWS services such as Amazon S3 for object storage, Amazon Redshift for the data warehousing side of things in just a few clicks. And with AppFlow, you can run data flows at enterprise scale. So you don't have to worry about scaling and looking at the underlying infrastructure as well, because we take care of that because it's a managed service. And my customers are also looking to use Amazon EventBridge as an event bus, which makes it easier to build event-driven applications, which applications usually generate some kind of event as well. So might as well use that, right? Yeah. So in terms of EventBridge, it ingests data from, we talked about SaaS applications
Mm.
and routes it to different SaaS targets through API destinations, which is invoked by the HTTP invocation endpoint target for events. I know it sounds a little bit complicated, but Cheryl will go through some of these components and you'll get to know a little bit more about event-driven architecture in a practical sense. But for the audience out there, you can actually use EventBridge to connect. We talked about connecting your SaaS applications for integration, but you can also trigger workflows. For example, if you have a call center, so you can generate, if you can generate those events around customer sentiment, maybe we can analyze that using AWS AI, high-level AI services. So there's plenty of ways to continue to innovate with what you already have. So it's a really interesting use case.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
really interesting. So Maya, yeah, who is our speaker for this episode?
Yes, so today we have Cheryl Joseph, who is a solutions architect, and she supports sports customers at AWS. She's got a passion for solving technical challenges, and she loves guiding and helping others, especially women, in understanding their potential in pursuing careers in technology. She enjoys public speaking, so she's at the right place. She has over 20 years of experience in leading several complex and robust and scalable software solutions for large-scale enterprise applications. So let's welcome Cheryl.
I am a solutions architect at AWS. So in today's Shibul session, I'm going to be speaking with you regarding event-driven architectures. So here is our agenda for today. We'll start off with what event-driven architectures are, followed by Amazon EventBridge and a high-level architecture of EventBridge. I'll then show you the architecture of the demo that we'll be going through, followed by the demo itself, and then I'll share a few resources with you at the end to help you get started. So what are event-driven architectures? Before we speak about what event-driven architectures are, we should really speak about what is an event. An event is a change in state. Your applications generate events. What do you do with these events? Do you care about them? Do you want to react to these events? Event-driven architectures enable you to do just that. They enable you to build pipelines and to react to events to take further action. So in your event-driven architectures, your producers and your consumers are decoupled. Your producers are producing the event. Your consumers are consuming the event. And in between, you have a router that is filtering your messages, filtering your events, and pushing them to the correct consumers. And event-driven architectures are highly scalable and distributed. Amazon EventBridge is an AWS service that enables you to build pipelines for event-driven architectures. So what exactly is Amazon EventBridge? It is an event bus service for AWS services, your own applications, or even SaaS providers. It's fully managed. So not only does it take care of the ingestion and the delivery, but also the security, the authorization, and the error handling. And it's serverless. So you only pay for the events that you process. Here is the architecture of EventBridge. It all starts with the event source, and there are 3 different types of event sources. They could be AWS services, they could be custom events that are coming in from your own applications, or even from a growing number of AWS SaaS integration partners that will emit events from their products into an event bus that you own. And then at the heart of EventBridge is the event bus itself. There are 3 different types of event buses. There's the default event bus for AWS services. There's the custom event bus for your own applications, and then there's the SaaS event bus. And then you have rules and targets. The rules will define which targets will receive your event, and they're really JSON objects that are looking for a pattern match. And once a match has been found, the event will be sent to the correct destination. And you could have multiple targets associated with a rule. So here is the architecture of the demo that we'll be going through. I have 3 different rules. And for the first rule, EventBridge will invoke a Lambda function, which will log to CloudWatch logs. For the second rule, EventBridge will publish to an SNS topic, and SNS will then send the message to SQS, as SQS is one of the subscribers there. And for the third rule, EventBridge will call an AWS step function state machine when a match has been found. So now let's get to the demo. So here I am in the AWS console, and this is Amazon EventBridge. I've created the orders event bus, which I'll be using. However, here is the default event bus that I was speaking to you about. And if you want to create your event bus, it's really easy from the console. Just hit create event bus, give it a name, and you can specify a resource-based policy, and this will define who can access your event bus. And by default, only the event bus owner can send events to the event bus. Okay. All right. So now let's look at our rules. And I'll select the orders event bus, and I have 3 rules that I've created. The first rule is the all orders rule, and I'll hit edit over here, and it has a name, there's a description, and here is the event pattern. I've picked a custom pattern, and I've said the pattern should be where the source is com.aws.orders. So any events that match this particular pattern, this event will be sent to this target, which is a Lambda function named EventBridge target. All right. And one neat thing that I wanted to point out to you is this test event pattern. So expand this, and if you want to test out your event patterns, you can put your event over here and hit test event pattern. That will enable you to test if the event pattern you specified over here is correct. Okay. So let me go ahead and hit cancel here. And here is my Lambda function named EventBridge target. Okay, here's it. And there's really not much going on over here. All it's really doing is logging the event to CloudWatch logs. And here's CloudWatch logs. And let's make sure there's nothing logged right now. Okay, there's nothing logged. So now next I'm going to publish an event. So this is the event generator, and this workshop that I'm going through is publicly available. So if you go through this workshop, you can run the CloudFormation stack in your account, and it will create this workshop, this event generator for you. So I'm going to refresh it. And the event bus is orders. The source is com.aws.orders. And the location I'm going to change is to SA-East. And in this case, if I hit publish, there should be a pattern match on the first rule that I just showed you because of this source. All right, it was published successfully. And one neat thing I want to show you is with this tool, it will show you the CLI that you can use if you want to run this command from the CLI, and also the JavaScript code if you would like to embed this in your own applications, and even the Python code. Okay. So now let's look at CloudWatch logs, because Event Bridge would have invoked my Lambda function, which then would have logged the event in CloudWatch logs. So I'm refreshing, and there you go. Let's look at our event, and here's the event. Here's the envelope, and this is the payload of the event right here. Okay, you can see it has a category, the value, and the location is SA-East, and the source was com.aws.orders. Great. Now let's go back to EventBridge and look at our second rule. And that is EU West orders. So for this rule, it's looking for the event pattern where the source is still com.aws.orders. However, the location should be equal to EU-West. And if that pattern matches, it will publish the event to the SNS topic named orders. Okay, so let's look at SNS. Here's our topic named orders, and it has one subscriber, which is an SQS queue named orders. Okay, so I'm going to SQS now, and here's my orders queue, and let's poll for new messages. And right now there are no messages, so I'm going to go ahead and publish another event. Okay, so it's the same event bus. Source is com.aws.orders. However, the location is going to be EU-West. Okay, so when I hit publish, it should there should be a pattern match in two rules. The first rule that I just showed you, which will log to CloudWatch logs, and the second rule is the one that will publish to an SNS topic. Okay, it published successfully. Now let's go back, because SQS is a subscriber. We'll go straight to SQS, and here you go, because I was polling. Here is my message that I received, and if we expand it, here is my event itself. Okay, you can see the location is EU-West. Okay, so now this triggered, there was a pattern match in our second rule. And also, if we quickly go into CloudWatch logs, and if we refresh, there's probably another log group. So let's go ahead, and there you go, another log stream, I should say. And if we go to this log stream, this should be our second event. There you go, EU-West, and sources com.aws.orders. So now we tested our second rule. I'm going back into EventBridge to test our third rule. And the third rule is US medical supply orders. For this rule, the source is still com.aws.orders. However, in the detail, it's saying that the location should begin with US hyphen, and the category should be medical hyphen supplies. And if this pattern match has been found, it will call AWS step function state machine named order processing. So I'm going into step functions, order processing state machine. And if you can see, I had from my previous testing, I have a few executions over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when I publish my next event, I should see another execution over here. Okay, so here it is. It's still source, same source. However, I'm going to change this to medical supplies, and this is US-East. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to publish this, and it published successfully. And I should see an execution in step functions, and there should also be the event log to CloudWatch logs. However, we won't look at that for this one. So let's quickly go to step functions and refresh. So I should have my sixth execution, which just happened right now. So let's go in over here, and there you go. We have multiple states over here. For the first one, it's type pass, where the input is, here's my event. It's US-East, medical supplies, com.aws.orders. Great. And in this, over here, in this state machine, not only is it doing that, but it's also publishing to another SNS topic. So you can see how easy it was for you to use EventBridge to build event-driven architectures. So here are a few useful resources, and there's the hands-on workshop that I used that you can get started and with EventBridge, and also blogs and a few videos. So with that, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for listening, and thank you to the SheBuilds team for having me.
Wow, that is really, really great. That's such a great session, isn't it, Mime?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's very in depth, so really getting a detailed look on how EventBridge actually works.
Yeah, there's a lot of chat going on in the chat. A lot of comments and questions coming in. Keep the questions coming. If you have any questions with the event-driven architecture or the demo that Cheryl showed you about, type in the questions. We will answer it like on live. And I really enjoy the demo part and the architecture walkthrough. The demo really gives the idea of how the event bridge and the other services integrate together. And one of the things that I picked up from Cheryl's video is with the event-driven architecture, it really reduced the complexity of the architecture. So in the Cheryl's video, let's say she was talking about the example e-commerce application, and then you have a small microservices and components. So this is a modern architecture, right? You're starting to break it down into microservices from a single monolithic application. And those components need to talk to each other, like they need to pass on one message to another. And in this case, if you use the event bus or event-driven architecture, it can help to communicate between those services and push notifications rather than opposite of the pooling mechanism. So I have done a few of the pooling applications in the past myself, which is like, for example, fetching updates every minute, or fetching every 15 minutes from the server, that kind of pooling architecture, which is great, but it adds additional overhead or to orchestrate those components. So you could replace those pooling mechanisms in this use case and replace it with events. Use the events driven to only initiate the job when it is required to do. Doesn't have to run the job all the time. So it goes well with this Lambda, where you only need to run the Lambda function when there's an event. It doesn't have to run the whole time, that kind of thing. And so it's safe on the consumptions of the compute or the network, and potentially lower costs. And I think I really like the other part that Cheryl's talked about, where the event-driven architecture can improve the scalability and also the extensibility of the applications. So, the way I see it is, when there is a massive, the volume of traffic coming in, and your e-commerce website is just going crazy and got a lot of requests, and a lot of people are just buying things on their website, then you want to scale the applications. And because it's a microservices, like individual component, I think you can just scale those a particular component that need to be scaled, and then the other can just stay with the volume of the data, and they all communicate through the event bus. So I think that's that kind of the advantages that event-driven architecture has given. I find that's really useful.
Yeah. So, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
No. So yeah, that's my takeaway from the demo, and also just thinking about the applications and the design from the design perspective. I think there is one question, in the chat. So apologies if I'm pronouncing the Twitch handler wrong. Is it Martelski? So it's asking about, in practice, event-driven architecture is much more difficult to implement than job-based. I'll put my 2 cents in there. And I agree, pull-based or job-based, where you schedule a job and then the job just do it on their schedule. It's quite, it's much simpler, I would say. I agree in practice. And event-driven architecture, you have a different components. And if we look at a long run, if you're thinking about, reducing the complexity and also being able to add the scalability and only running the resource when it's required. So pull-based, you will probably run it every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, like I said. But in the event driven, if there's only event once an hour, that could be a difference. But it comes down to the points, how the traffic and how the application patterns is in this case. So that's my 2 cents. What do you think, Mai?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it might be a little bit, it might take a little bit more time and planning to implement. But I think, as you mentioned, May, it's good in the long term, because you've got to think about the overall cost, not just the actual costs, as in dollars, but also like the overhead that's required, as long, because I've seen customers that integrate with so many third-party SaaS providers and lots of different external APIs, and as that gets pretty complex, you want that sort of like almost like a single source of truth, where all the events come to EventBridge, and then you can use that as like an integration point. So a lot of customers are using Event Bus that way, although it does take a bit of planning. I think it's worthwhile doing that planning beforehand to have, what do you call it, like more flexibility in the future.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that's you've got to consider like pros and cons depending on the nature of the applications and depending on what you're trying to achieve. Awesome. Thanks for that, Mai. So it is a giveaway time. I hope everyone is excited and paying attention on the video and then the demo. We have got 2 giveaway for the audience, and we're going to post the questions. And Mai, if you can read out the questions, I'll post it in the chat as well. And whoever answer, or the first 2 answer the correct answer, will get the giveaway. All right. Everyone ready? And Mai, what is the question?
The question is, what is the full name of the AWS service that is important for creating event-driven architecture and is also used as an event bus? Questions, answers. We need the full name, people.
It's gotta be full name.
All right, I think we've got our 2 winners. All right. All right, so we do have winners, 2 winners. You'll be getting some AWS credits. So have a look at your Twitch DMs shortly. So we have winners. First winner is Loka Samasta Tsukino Bavantu. Sorry if I said your name wrong. And there's another person here. Or did I miss anyone? Full name. Is there another person? Oh, yeah.
Yep, there's another one.
Kasukur, Amazon EventBridge is the correct answer. So make sure you look out on your Twitch DMs, and we'll grab your details and we'll send you through the AWS credits. Awesome. Do we have any more questions from the audience, May?
Not at the moment. If you have any questions, drop in the chat. Anything related to event-driven or any questions that you might have for me and Mai. So drop in the chat. I am going to give away, well, it's not as exciting, but some homework to go and build yourself about event-driven architecture. So I've talked about, well, Sharon's talked about Event Bridge, and there is the workshop that I shared earlier. So you can go and build it using the workshop. It's a publicly available. It's a great experience just to play around with the hands-on in the console. And there is also a page where we talk about serverless architecture. So every time we talk about event-driven, serverless seems to come in play, right? So it would be great to get some experience on the serverless. So I'm just pop it in the chat for the serverless as well. Cool. And for anyone who likes watching YouTube video like myself, there is a reInvent video that we specifically find it for this episode. So reInvent is the educational and massive events that we have at AWS, and this is specifically focusing on the event-driven architecture that Sharon's provided. So for all the viewers, I will just pop it in the chat. So go and build it, enjoy it, hope you get some takeaway from today's sessions. And everyone's thanks for participating in the quiz, and give all the winners. I'm going to contact you and give you some swags from the show.
Awesome. All right. So hope to see you at the next episode in about a month's time. And we'd love to hear your feedback and some topics you'd love to know more about. So please keep that feedback coming, the comments coming. And if you identify as a woman or non-binary and have built something really cool on AWS, we'd love to have you here as a guest. So no matter where you're located in the world, please reach out to us on our LinkedIn profile or join the AWS She Builds LinkedIn group for more events coming your way, and obviously subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. That's where all our previous episodes are, and we speak about a lot of cool technical projects that awesome people have implemented. So this is Mai.
And this is May. Let's net out together on She Builds Tech Skills.
Hope to see you next time.
See you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.